Well, answer that question, Michael Costa. What on earth has happened?
Well, what's happened is this government is in its second term. It's already had an economic summit and didn't produce any goods in the first term. Look, the bottom line is this government has baked into its economic DNA, taxing, spending, and waste. And we're not going to get any reforms out of this government. And it's impossible to see how we can increase productivity when you've re-regulated the labour market, you've increased import costs, as you pointed out, you've destroyed our capital formation by introducing taxes like the tax on unrealised capital gains, and you just waste money everywhere on projects like the future made in China, the quantum computer. And in addition to all of that, you then hand out money to people that don't need it, people for childcare on $500,000, or HEX payments for people that are doing courses in, liberation theology or something like that. I mean, this is the problem with this country, and this is the problem with this government. It has no agenda.
Look, I'm just puzzled, Cameron, by this relationship between Albanese and his Treasurer, Jim Chalmers. I mean, as you say, Albanese seems to have completely smothered Chalmers' ambitions here. But, I've got to say the Treasurer was saying, oh, no, I'm totally with the Prime Minister. Yeah, he's totally right. When clearly he's playing something much, much grander. What is it between these two men?
Well, I mean, Chalmers is the challenger. Albo is the dead hand of government, and that's the difference. Albo got there by probably a bit of good luck. Chalmers got there through sheer hard work. And this is the problem for Albo. The problem is that 94 seats means that you can actually change a Labor leader. You can actually change a Labor leader without any fear of going to the next election and losing, the way Gillard Rudd was. So the problem for Albo is he's actually got time against him, and intellectual, giants like Chalmers challenge him on a daily basis, and that's why he feels so threatened.
I got to say, Cameron, I appreciate your support of Jim Chalmers, but Michael Costa, I am not so convinced that Jim Chalmers let loose would give us exactly what we need either.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And look, what Cameron's saying is correct. I mean, in the sense that Chalmers is challenging for the top job at some point in the future, and he's trying to lay the groundwork as a visionary. But unfortunately, the comment he just made in the lead up to this segment shows me that he's not up to it at the moment. He actually said that Victoria was a separate entity, and somehow he, as the Commonwealth Treasurer, had no role in what they did in terms of economic barriers to productivity. So, he's got a long way to go before he's in a position to challenge. And I think Albo's there for as long as he wants with that majority. I think, he's got a big base supporting him within the Parliamentary Labor Party.
And now, Cameron Milner, the government seems to have tacked on artificial intelligence is a topic that needs talking about. Just, bang, suddenly that's there with only 2 weeks to go. Now, obviously, artificial intelligence is going to revolutionise a lot of workplaces. AI machines doing people's jobs, particularly in things like call centres, speeding up searches for information, all that kind of stuff. The government wants to talk about regulating it or not regulating it. The Productivity Commission says don't do that, let it rip. What should that discussion actually be?
Well, if you look at England and the Labor government that Starmer's got, he's actually trying to move legislation which would basically throw away copyright, throw away the creative ability to actually hold on to the thing that you created as a human. So it's a terrible, terrible outcome. And the Productivity Commission was just doubling down on Starmer's idea. And that's the problem, Andrew. The problem is AI in an automated process like a call centre, maybe. But you can't paint the Sistine Chapel by numbers. You can't create a Wagner opera on AI unless it's just plagiarised, unless it's just copying someone else's work. And I don't think the tech bros should get access to the creative industries. And I think people have actually got to keep copyright in this country, but the things that they create, that they own themselves, not have given over to AI for free.
Is that an issue, Michael? I mean, anyone can say to an AI machine, Grok, why don't you write 750-word article exactly like Andrew Bolt does it so brilliantly twice a week in the News Corp papers. So it just goes and combs my stuff. I get no credit for it. I get no money for it. Some AI application earns the money for someone else. I mean, is this fair?
Oh, look, Andrew, I think that example is not really where AI is going. It's going into automation of manufacturing and production of, high tech industries. And I think that's why we've got to be very careful with AI. I think we've got to regulate it very lightly. Yes, there are copyright issues, and you can handle those through royalty payments and other things associated with that. We just don't want to find ourselves in a position on this that we found in the auto industry. We have the best conditions in the auto industry in the world for workers, but we have no auto industry because we over-regulated it. Now, we're going to go down this path of over-regulating the future, and we'll have no future. That's my view on this, and I think the government's got to be very, very careful. They don't understand what they're doing with this, neither do the people that are in the industry at the moment. We've got a 5-year horizon to try and deal with these problems.
I tend to agree with you. Every time the government reaches for a regulation, I shudder. I just think there goes another, rope over the economy. I mentioned earlier the government, Victorian government, saying it wants a new law to say that certain workers have a right to work 2 days a week from home. I know this is just crude politics, Cameron. It's meant to wedge the state Liberals and win the massive public service vote. See, a rerun of the last federal election. We're going to let you keep working from home so you can do housework instead of your real work. But should any government really be passing such laws?
Well, no, and it's curious, isn't it, that she made a big announcement at the state conference, this is Premier Allen, but then had to go the Equal Opportunity Act to try to get it passed through. So let's see how they actually enact this thing in Victoria without federal laws, without federal workplace laws actually coming over the top. Look, people can work from home, and many of us do, but the reality is that if you're a public servant or you're in a large corporation that requires teamwork and collaboration, work from home doesn't work. And you've got to be in the office. And to try to make it Mondays and Fridays or Wednesdays and Thursdays or whatever it happens to be, no one will actually get any productivity done if it's work from home 2 days a week, Andrew. It's not fair on people like taxpayers who pay for governments to operate or large corporates who need teams together. And implementing it in Victoria will simply see a flight of capital and workforce, I suspect, to other states.
Michael Costa, I do work from home, so there's a declaration, but I have to say, that should be up to employers and employees. I think a government should absolutely butt out. I mean, there is no right to work from home unless a government sort of invents it out of thin air to win votes.
Yeah, well, that's again my example of the auto industry. You'll give great conditions, but nobody will have a job because nobody will invest in that particular state. And that again comes to the point I made a few minutes ago. I mean, Chalmers has got to step in. I mean, this is a productivity issue for the national economy. You can't carve out one state and say that you have no jurisdiction on it. This is a federal government issue. They need to come down very hard and ensure that any arrangement is consistent with the relationship between the industrial relations system and the bargaining system that we have in this country, or else it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, well, it's just pure stupid politics from a beggar state that is being driven into the ground by that crazy Labor government in Victoria. Cameron Milner and Michael Costa, thank you very much to you both.